Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas. I'm Molly Gumpy. Let's get started. A much-hyped summit between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping has concluded. But beyond the optics and the praise and the rhetoric, the big question mark over what really was achieved in terms of tangible progress. Where do things stand now for Donald Trump after the summit, especially on the Iran war? We discuss this and lots more shortly. Also on the show for you tonight, India and the UAE deepened defense and energy ties during Prime Minister Modi's visit. We get you the details. Amid the global energy crisis, the Indian government has hiked the prices of petrol and diesel across the country for the first time in 4 years. We get you reactions from people on the ground. All this and more coming up. The Trump-Xi summit began with a lot of hype. A lot of pageantry was on display. There was praise, toasting, rhetoric. But as Donald Trump left from China, he seemed to be empty-handed, with no breakthrough as such and no tangible progress as of now. But there was no dearth of grand statements and optics. And the personal chemistry between the two leaders was on display. But with China offering no concessions to the US on any front as such, it seems that Trump failed to charm Xi Jinping. Just a few hours ago, Xi Jinping showed off the centuries-old trees in Beijing's secretive hub there to Donald Trump. This former imperial garden housing Xi Jinping's primary residence and also is China's seat of power. And throughout his stay in Beijing, Trump was effusive when it comes to heaping praise on Xi Jinping. Speaking to Fox News, he opined that the Chinese leader was fit for a role in Hollywood and also praised his physical features, especially his height. Chinese youth performers cheered, waved national flags of the two sides in that grand farewell ceremony for Donald Trump. Just before entering that plane, Donald Trump gave his signature fist bump as well. While this is normally seen as a sign of confidence, the final outcome painting a different picture. For example, the US president said that Xi Jinping expressed his willingness to help negotiate an end to the Iran war and the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. He also claimed that Xi Jinping was on the same page as far as Iran not having a nuclear weapon was concerned.
We did discuss Iran. We feel very similar to Iran. We want that to end. We don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. We want the straits open. We're closing it now. They closed it, then we closed it on top of them. But we want the straits open.
The reality, though, is stark, and China did not publicly acknowledge any of these claims as such. Its foreign ministry also said there is no point in continuing the Iran war, which shouldn't have happened in the first place. This also shows that there is no straight solution to the Strait of Hormuz deadlock, which of course remains a key sticking point. Now, while Xi Jinping warned Trump over the Taiwan issue, Trump maintained that he made no commitment either way. However, the US president revealed that he is yet to take a decision on whether the $11 billion arms sale to Taiwan should be going ahead. He also downplayed the possibility of a conflict with China over the issue, thereby signaling Beijing's upper hand. Listen to this.
One, he feels very strongly. I made no commitment either way. We'll see what happens.
What about the arms sales to Taiwan?
I'll make a determination over the next fairly short period.
And as far as the economic front is concerned, Trump claimed to have made what he called fantastic trade deals. He claimed that China has agreed to buy 450 engines from General Electric and over 200 planes from Boeing, which can eventually go up to 750 planes. He also stressed that China voiced interest in purchasing more American oil and soybeans. And reacting to this, China did not confirm the specifics of what Trump claimed. In fact, the Chinese foreign minister said both sides are still working on details for the trade outcomes. He also said that China and the US agreed to set up boards of trade and investment, promote trade under reciprocal tariff reductions. During Trump's 2017 China visit, both sides signed business deals worth $250 billion.
The essence of China-US economic and trade relations is mutual benefit and win-win cooperation. Both sides should jointly implement the important consensus reached by the two heads of state and inject more stability into China-US economic and trade cooperation and the world economy.
And as per China's foreign ministry, Xi Jinping affirmed that Trump and he agreed on a new constructive relationship of strategic stability, saying that the two sides reached common understanding on keeping trade ties stable, expanding cooperation in various fields, and enhancing communication on international issues. In what seemed to be a direct reference to his warning over the Taiwan issue, Xi Jinping urged Trump to steer clear of interference and promote the development of their bilateral ties. In fact, he is set to visit the US in autumn on Trump's invitation, reportedly. What also stood out is no joint statement was issued before Trump departed for Washington. Not just that, China refrained from delving into the specifics of what was agreed upon, with Xi Jinping offering no practical help to Trump on various fronts, including Hormuz. It appears that this visit has probably failed to yield an outcome which Trump desired. And markets also reacted negatively, with crude oil prices rising by over 2% to $108 per barrel. Although Iranian foreign minister reiterated in India that Tehran does not want a nuclear weapon, he flagged a lack of trust in the US. And this also raises a key question. Will hostilities in Iran resume once again as the negotiations have hit a dead end? The next few hours and days will perhaps give us a clearer picture, or the world hopes so. Even as the West Asia tensions continue to cause ripple effects around the world, is it possible to prevent future wars in the region? Saudi Arabia is reportedly pushing a new diplomatic plan aimed at the same. This plan is being seen as inspired from the Cold War era Helsinki Accords. According to a report by Financial Times, Riyadh has been discussing the idea of a non-aggression pact between Iran and other West Asian countries, reportedly as part of wider talks about what the region could look like after the end of the US-Israel war against Iran. Now, reports suggest the proposal is still at a discussion stage and has not been officially announced. Diplomats say the idea is one of several options being considered to manage a post-war Iran when they may be militarily weakened but still capable of threatening its neighbors. At the same time, the model is reportedly being discussed. In fact, those accords that we just talked about were signed in 1975 by the United States, remember, the Soviet Union and the European countries, to reduce the risk of conflict during the Cold War. They focused on security guarantees, dialogue, and economic cooperation between rival powers. The report by the Financial Times suggests Saudi Arabia believes a similar framework could help stabilize West Asia. The discussions coming after months of the war between Iran and the US-Israel side. In fact, Gulf countries are also said to be deeply worried that they could be left facing a more aggressive and hardline Iran once the war ends. And this could happen especially if the American military presence in the region reduces in the future, for example. And this conflict has already shown just how vulnerable the region can really be. Iran retaliated during the war by firing missiles and drones at Gulf states. Tehran targeted energy facilities and civilian infrastructure. Iran also effectively shut down the Strait of Hormuz, raising fears across the region about energy security and economic stability. And the ripple effects of that crisis continue to be felt around the world. The reports also suggest that many European countries and European Union officials have quietly backed the Saudi idea, reportedly. And they reportedly see it as a possible way to prevent future conflicts while also offering Iran security guarantees that it would not be attacked. And Tehran has long argued that regional countries should handle their own security without Western intervention. But then the big question remains over whether Israel would be a part of any such arrangement. And there is a chance that without Israel's participation, the plan could also become counterproductive, as Gulf states now see both Iran and Israel as major sources of instability, perhaps, in the region. Concerns about Israel have also grown since the October 7 Hamas attack and the conflicts that followed. And there are growing differences between Saudi Arabia and the UAE over how to deal with Iran, basically, and what the region's future should actually look like. The UAE reportedly took a much more hawkish position during the war. When the West Asia war initially broke out, the UAE, remember, tried to persuade neighboring countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar, reportedly, to join a coordinated military response to the Iranian airstrikes. But those countries refused, reportedly, and left Abu Dhabi frustrated. So another big question is over whether the UAE would even join a regional non-aggression framework if it moves forward. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia appears to be moving in a different direction. The kingdom has been more supportive of the Pakistan-led mediation efforts between Washington and Tehran, reportedly. And Saudi Arabia is also building closer strategic ties with Pakistan, Turkey, and Egypt, reportedly. Last September, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan signed a mutual defense pact. Now, these two countries could deepen their cooperation in defense, foreign policy, and economic matters in response to the war. Shifting focus, Ukraine has endured one of the fiercest aerial barrages since that war started. In just 3 days, Russia launched about 50 missiles, over 1,500 drones, leaving 24 dead, more than 100 injured, as explosions ripped through parts across the country. Experts say Moscow is now using a deadly new double-tap attack tactic. As air raid sirens scream through the night, the war has entered a terrifying new phase. Our next report telling you more.
The attacks no longer stopped at dawn. That is the frightening new reality unfolding over Ukraine. For hours, waves of drones swarmed through the night sky. Then, as rescue workers and civilians emerged from shelters, fresh explosions ripped through cities again in broad daylight. Apartment blocks collapsed, streets filled with smoke, shattered glass and panic.
It was very loud. When they were shooting down those Shahed drones and missiles, it was extremely loud. We were very scared.
And then when it hit, all the glass flew into the rooms. From the balcony, from the rooms, everything shattered.
It's just so tragic. Both the children and the adults who were simply resting, dreaming, going about their lives, working, and they wiped them out in an instant. They just wiped out people.
Russia is reportedly using double-tap strikes, a heavy nighttime attack followed by equally intense daytime strikes on the same areas, increasing chaos and exposing rescuers and civilians to repeated danger. Over 3 days, Moscow fired 47 missiles and unleashed 1,593 drones across Ukraine in a relentless barrage designed to overwhelm defenses and stretch emergency response systems to breaking point.
According to preliminary data, a Kh-101 missile struck a residential building in Kyiv. The missile was manufactured in the second quarter of this year. This means Russia is still importing the components, resources and equipment necessary for missile production in circumvention of global sanctions.
Ukraine's air defenses are under severe pressure. Interceptor stockpiles are thinning, while Russian drone swarms continue to grow larger and more coordinated. Analysts say Moscow is increasingly using saturation tactics, flooding the skies with drones before launching missiles through weakened gaps. But Ukraine is striking back hard. Kyiv launched drone attacks targeting Russian oil facilities deep inside Russian territory. These are images from Ryazan, located about 200 kilometers southeast of Moscow. Witnessing the scale of Ukrainian reprisal, the Kremlin issued a stark ultimatum, stating that Kyiv will spare no one if left unrestrained, signaling a terrifying new phase of war. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
The Indian Prime Minister has left the UAE after a short visit, part of his 5-nation tour. The visit coming at a time of major shifts in global trade, energy security and geopolitical alignments. The visit is also a testament to that evolving India-UAE partnership far beyond traditional trade ties. And as the Prime Minister's aircraft entered the UAE airspace, it was escorted by the UAE F-16 fighter jets. The symbolic gesture also an example of growing strategic trust between the two sides. And on arrival, Prime Minister Modi was accorded a ceremonial guard of honor before holding high-level talks with the UAE President. And later, taking to X, Prime Minister Modi shared photographs from the meeting, writing that the friendship between India and the UAE is very strong and that both sides would continue working together to build a better future for the planet. The meeting produced a series of major agreements. One of the most significant outcomes was the signing of a framework agreement for a strategic defense partnership. The agreement is expected to deepen cooperation in defense manufacturing, military technology, maritime security, and wider strategic coordination between New Delhi and Abu Dhabi. The defense push coming at a time when both countries are increasingly focused on securing trade routes, protecting energy supply chains, and responding to a volatile security environment in the Gulf region. Energy security emerged as a major focus during the visit. India and the UAE signed a memorandum of understanding on strategic petroleum reserves. aimed at strengthening India's preparedness against volatility in global crude markets and possible supply disruptions. The two sides also concluded an agreement on long-term supplies of liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, to ensure more stable energy flows to India. For India, the partnership with the UAE is increasingly becoming central to its strategy of diversifying energy sources and reducing exposure to global price shocks. The UAE also announced investments worth $5 billion in Indian infrastructure and finance. The two countries also signed an MOU to develop a ship repair cluster in Gujarat, a project expected to strengthen India's maritime infrastructure and position the country as a regional hub for ship maintenance and repair services. For India, these agreements also coming at a crucial time. After the months of conflict and uncertainty in West Asia, particularly the tensions around the Strait of Hormuz, more than 40 to 50% of India's crude oil imports pass through the Strait of Hormuz, remember, along with a major portion of its LNG imports. The disruption has also impacted the pockets of Indians as fuel and LPG prices were hiked across the country earlier. And it is against this backdrop that the UAE made another major announcement. Abu Dhabi said it will fast-track the construction of a new oil pipeline that will bypass the Strait of Hormuz. The decision coming after the recent disruption of the UAE energy exports through the crucial strait. The new pipeline project, also ordered to be expedited by Abu Dhabi Crown Prince, it will be expanding the UAE's ability to export oil through the port of Fujairah on the Gulf of Oman, without depending entirely on the Strait of Hormuz. The project is expected to double the export capacity through the existing pipeline, which currently carries up to 1.8 million barrels of oil a day. And following days of anticipation, the Indian government has hiked the prices of petrol and diesel across the country for the first time in 4 years. The move, of course, coming amid the global energy crisis. And our next report now gets you reactions from the people on the ground to capture what their sentiment is looking like.
It is a necessity. You can't do anything.
It was a necessity. We can't do anything. We have to go to the office every day. The kids have to go out. Our monthly budget will increase by 1,000 rupees. But on the other hand, prices have been increased for the first time in years.
This is the first time petrol ka price hike.
In Mumbai alone, we are witnessing petrol prices touching 106 or 107 rupees per litre, giving another blow to the consumers. Experts do warn that, of course, with this daily essential items, transportation cost, groceries, this could also go up in the future, giving another major blow to the consumers across India.
Our family runs on transport business. If the rates are high, then how will we survive?
So there is another issue that is brewing. That is about the shortage of petrol and diesel in certain localities. Though this is an isolated issue, the major concern is that when people head out to fill their tanks, they don't have adequate quantities of petrol and diesel at certain petrol pumps. This issue, they say, is because many of these pumps are not receiving their regular daily supply. Instead, they're receiving a reduced supply. And because of this, most of them, by midday or by evening, they run out of supplies and they're having to shut the pump itself. One of the pumps behind us is an example of that.
It was expected.
The prices would have been hiked before elections. Did the government did not know what's happening in the Gulf?
Decision is not good, but considering the situation of the world, the congestion in the Strait of Hormuz, it has to be taken.
Indian oil marketing companies have increased petrol and diesel prices by 3 rupees per litre across the country, Here in New Delhi, petrol now costs 97 rupees and 77 paise, whereas diesel is priced at 90 rupees and 67 paise. This price hike essentially ends the 4-year freeze that the government was able to exercise despite the global oil price shocks. However, people are now concerned because this could lead into further transportation cost hike and higher grocery bills, which is a key concern.
And before we go on any further, a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. The US announces removal of the stockpile of highly enriched uranium, not from Iran. We tell you more about this in just a bit. Several foreign nationals have been arrested reportedly for allegedly casting votes illegally in Tamil Nadu. We get you the complete story. Scientists have found fossils of a giant dinosaur in Thailand. We get you the details. All this and more coming up. The Trump administration has announced a major nuclear security operation leading to the removal of a foreign country's stockpile of highly enriched uranium. It's not Iran that we are talking about. After months of pressuring Tehran to hand over its stockpile of highly enriched uranium, one of Trump's stated objectives of going to war with Iran early this year, Washington now says it has successfully removed enriched uranium from Venezuela. In an official announcement, the US administration has said that American teams working with Venezuela, the UK, the International Atomic Energy Agency, removed 13.5 kilograms of highly enriched uranium from Venezuela's shuttered research reactor, RV-1 research reactor, located around 15 kilometers from the national capital. The material, it says, had been stored for decades after the reactor stopped operating in the early 1990s. US officials said the uranium was moved under tight security by land and sea from the facility to a nuclear site in South Carolina. The IAEA described the mission as complex and sensitive. The US State Department, meanwhile, said the mission, which normally it claims could have taken years, was completed in just months, it says, under Trump's leadership. The department also claimed that the removal of dangerous nuclear material from Venezuela made the United States safer and, quote-unquote, has strengthened nuclear security worldwide. The development also highlighting the contrast when it comes to the situation in Iran. Remember, one of Trump's main war goals was to force Tehran to give up more than 400 kgs of highly enriched uranium. Those efforts so far have failed. Even as Washington celebrates that success in Venezuela, the operation comes as the US rebuilds ties with Venezuela, the country that holds the world's largest proven oil reserves, following the US-led capture of the Venezuelan leader, Nicolas Maduro, at the start of this year. The human cost of the Gaza war cannot be understated. Nearly 1.9 million people have been displaced. Israel's territorial grab continues, with Netanyahu revealing that it controls 60% of Gaza. This conflict has had a drastic impact on the people working in the digital sector as well. Our next report explores how Gaza's online workers are pushing through adversity.
From their homes being reduced to rubble to seeking shelter in camps, Gazans' lives have changed beyond recognition since Israel started its deadly war on Gaza. This was in response to the October 7th Hamas terror attack in Israel, which killed over 1,200 people. Until now, over 72,000 Gazans have been killed. When the US brokered ceasefire came into effect in October 2025, IDF forces were supposed to withdraw to the Yellow Line, which encompassed 53% of Gaza. But Benjamin Netanyahu has now confirmed Israel's territorial grab. He revealed that Israel now controls 60% of Gaza.
There were those who said, "Come out, come out." We did not go out. Today we control, in the Gaza Strip, how much? Today it is 60%. Tomorrow we will see. Tomorrow we will see.
A less talked about aspect of the war is the impact on jobs. As per the UN, nearly 80% of the working population is unemployed. Even then, Gaza's digital workers are fighting it out. Prior to the war, over 9 out of 10 households in Gaza had access to internet. But the onset of the war upended lives of people working in the digital sector, with frequent power outages and patchy internet, as 75% of telecommunications infrastructure was damaged.
Before the war, I worked for a company, and when the war started, it took away my work. I lost my job, and the company was gone. I was forced to work as a freelancer. It took me 6 months to find work. There was no good internet, no electricity, and during the displacement, we moved every month. It was difficult to communicate with anyone.
While many stopped working, others kept going, whether it's designing logos for pizza parlors in Canada or building websites for businesses abroad. Now, some co-working spaces, powered by solar generators, are giving remote workers an opportunity to work in shifts.
To provide a source of income for myself and my family, I had to contact several people. Thankfully, I acquired some clients, but we faced constant difficulties with internet and electricity. I was constantly moving from place to place, searching for workspaces with reliable internet and electricity.
Gaza's digital workers are showing how sheer willpower can help beat all odds. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Cuba's crisis is getting worse day by day. Nationwide blackouts, empty fuel reserves, and a collapsing power grid pushing daily life to the edge. This year, in March, Cuba suffered 3 major nationwide grid failures, and now the crisis has spiraled even further. Crumbling infrastructure, years of poor maintenance, and shrinking fuel imports have crippled the country's electricity network. Cuba's state-run power utility currently produces barely 40% of the fuel that it actually needs, forcing the country to depend heavily on foreign oil imports. And against the escalating crisis, Cuba announced it has run out of diesel and fuel oil on Thursday, deepening one of the worst energy emergencies in its history. And since then, across the capital, businesses shut down, traffic signals stopped working, public transport nearly disappeared. Several districts endured electricity cuts lasting up to 22 hours a day. Food, fuel, medicine shortages have further intensified public frustration, with protests now spreading across parts of the capital. The country's power grid suffered another partial collapse, leaving large areas of eastern Cuba, including the country's second largest city, without electricity. Authorities later restored limited power to some essential services, but millions continue to face severe disruption.
The situation is terrible. There is nothing we can do about it. These are things that happen, and there is no solution in sight. I cannot tell you anything else because, believe me, this is very delicate. I cannot say more or tell you what I really think.
This is very complicated, and it is affecting people badly. As you can imagine, the country has a fuel shortage, and that is not hidden. That is not a lie. Our economy has hit rock bottom. There is no investment to do anything, and this is the reality we are left with.
Amid the deepening crisis, the CIA director held rare high-level talks in the capital with senior Cuban officials, including Raul Castro's grandson, the Cuban interior minister, and the head of the Cuban intelligence services. Discussions reportedly focused on economic stability, security cooperation, migration, and humanitarian support. Ratcliffe was reportedly there to personally deliver U.S. President Donald Trump's message that America is prepared to engage on economic and security issues, but only if Cuba makes fundamental changes. So there are conditions there. According to an official statement from the Cuban government, the visit was arranged at the behest of the U.S. government against the backdrop of quote-unquote complex bilateral relations. The U.S. earlier this week, remember, offered $100 million in humanitarian aid and satellite internet support. In fact, Cuba says it is willing to examine the proposal but wants clarity on the conditions attached, even as the country stares at the possibility of a complete blackout. Our next story is from India. Just days after the Tamil Nadu Assembly poll results were declared, a bizarre controversy has surfaced. Some foreign nationals are suspected to have voted in the election that was held in Tamil Nadu. Reportedly, it is learned that 20 such instances have been identified across the state. As per reports, 10 foreign nationals, including 4 women, have already been arrested reportedly by the Chennai police for allegedly casting votes illegally using fraudulently obtained identity documents. How exactly were these individuals caught? What's known right now? According to reports, immigration officials at the Chennai International Airport spotted indelible ink marks on the suspects' fingers as they attempted to leave the country after the elections. In India, that ink mark, remember, indicates that a person has cast the vote and prevents duplicate voting. Reports suggest the arrested individuals belong to Sri Lanka, the UK, Indonesia, and Canada. Sources saying that officials were reportedly on alert for possible influx of foreigners for voting after special intensive revision of the voter rolls was carried out to weed out ineligible voters. Reportedly, 7.4 million voters, remember, were eventually deleted in the state. This controversy also coming amid the Tamil Nadu elections witnessing that historic voter turnout, the highest since India's independence. The figure stood at 84.69%. It surpassed the 2011 record of 78.29%. The results were even more stunning, with actor-turned-politician Vijay's TVK delivering that mega political blockbuster debut, emerging as the single largest party. And he's now, of course, taken oath as the chief minister after stitching that post-poll alliance. A teenager from America's Minnesota once spent his nights playing Xbox, eating pizza, hanging out with his friends. Today, the same teenager is blessing thousands at a monastery in the Himalayas after being recognized by the Dalai Lama as a reincarnated Buddhist Lama. Here's the remarkable journey of this young man. Our next report telling you more.
At a monastery in the Himalayan foothills, thousands line up for a blessing from a teenage Buddhist Lama. One by one, Jalue Dorji taps bowed heads with a ritual vase and a peacock feather, sprinkling holy water for protection, purification, and wisdom. But just some months ago, the same young man was living the life of a typical American teenager. Near Minneapolis, playing video games, listening to rap music, and hanging out with friends. Recognized by the Dalai Lama as a reincarnated Buddhist Lama at just 2 years old, Dorji spent his childhood training in Buddhist philosophy while also attending school in the United States. Now 19, he has moved more than 11,000 kilometers away to northern India's mind-rolling monastery, a place he calls the equivalent of college for his spiritual training.
Really, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, he laid the foundation when my parents asked him, what should we do? So following those steps and after His Holiness laid the foundation, my dad and my parents took the chance.
Life at the monastery is far from his old American lifestyle. Dorji now lives ascetically, eating simple meals of rice and lentils and washing his clothes by hand.
I left friends and family. I left, I guess, just a lavish lifestyle. I left my regular clothes, and what I brought here was just these robes, some shoes, some Crocs, fantasy football magazine, and some of my electronics and headphones.
After years of training and contemplation, Dorji one day hopes to return to the United States to teach Buddhist philosophy to the Minnesota Buddhist community. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Scientists have identified a brand new species of giant long-necked dinosaur in Thailand, and it's now being described as the largest dinosaur ever discovered in Southeast Asia. The massive creature was a member of the sauropod family, which is a group of huge plant-eating dinosaurs known for their extremely long necks, long tails, enormous size. Researchers say the dinosaur was truly gigantic. It measured around 27 meters in length, making it even longer than a diplodocus. The animal is estimated to have weighed about 27 tons, roughly equivalent to the weight of 9 adult Asian elephants. The discovery was made by a team of scientists from Thailand and the UK. They studied fossils that were first unearthed a decade ago beside a pond in northeastern Thailand. After years of research and analysis, the team confirmed that the remains belong to an entirely new species.
It's a sauropod, and as of now, it's the largest dinosaur we have found in Southeast Asia, not just in Thailand. Its size is what makes it exciting. Even though we didn't find a lot of bones, but we discovered the important parts, such as the front and hind legs, which we used for calculating its size.
And the dinosaur's name also, interestingly, carries cultural significance. Naga refers to the mythical serpent found in Southeast Asian folklore, while Titan comes from Greek mythology, and it's a reference to powerful giant gods. Scientists say this creature lived between 100 and 200 million years ago during the Cretaceous period. That means it walked the earth around 40 million years before the fearsome Tyrannosaurus X ever appeared. And while the T-Rex is often seen as the icon of the dinosaur world in a way, this newly identified giant was actually about twice its size. And researchers believe the discovery could provide important clues about how some dinosaurs evolved to such extraordinary sizes. And they say this creature lived during a period when Earth was experiencing rising global temperatures and higher levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide. Scientists now want to understand whether those climatic conditions even helped create the environment that allowed these massive creatures to thrive. The discovery is also a major moment for Thailand's research, paleontological research. The creature is now the 14th dinosaur species to be officially named in Thailand. Eight hours of sleep, That's been sold as the golden rule for decades. But now a new study says too much sleep could quietly speed up the aging process inside your body. From the brain to the heart, researchers are warning that oversleeping may be aging your organs faster than you think. So what should you do? Our next report telling you more.
For years, people chased sleep like medicine. More rest, more recovery, more hours under the blanket. But now, scientists say the body may not like too much of a good thing. Researchers at Columbia University tracked sleep patterns and biological aging markers in adults. They were looking at something deeper than tired eyes or lazy mornings. They studied how fast organs inside the body were aging, and the results were startling. People sleeping beyond 8 hours a night showed signs of faster aging in critical organs: the brain, the heart, even the immune system. The study found the healthiest range was between 6.4 and 7.8 hours of sleep. Too little sleep was harmful, that was expected. But too much sleep also appeared to trigger accelerated biological aging. Researchers believe excessive sleep may be linked to hidden inflammation, disrupted body rhythms, and underlying health stress. In simple terms, the body may interpret very long sleep as a warning sign rather than recovery. Scientists used biological markers, often called aging clocks, to measure how old organs appear biologically, not just by birth date. Researchers say people regularly sleeping more than 8 hours showed older biological profiles. The findings challenge one of the world's most repeated wellness slogans: more sleep is always better. Experts say quality matters more than quantity. Regular sleep schedules, deep sleep, consistent timing, that may matter far more than marathon sleep sessions. Researchers are also warning against panic. Oversleeping may not directly cause aging in every case. It could also reflect other hidden health conditions already affecting the body. Still, the message is sharp. When it comes to sleep, balance may be the real superpower.
New Zealand's Maori Queen met King Charles at Buckingham Palace in her first official meeting since becoming Maori Queen in 2024 after the deaths of her father. And this visit highlights the nearly 200-year relationship between the Maoris and the British Crown. Take a look. And there's time for Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey to hit the big screen, and beyond the budget and the scale, it's the casting that has also garnered a lot of attention and also stirred a storm, in fact. But then this is not the first time that a race swap casting decision has sparked a debate on whether it is historical inaccuracy of increased representation. One of the most anticipated projects of 2026. The Odyssey is adapted from the epic poem of the same name, helmed on a reported budget of $250 million. It is being touted as the most expensive film of Nolan's career. But that's not the only reason why it's grabbing this amount of attention. Ever since the film was announced, it is being dissected by fans and critics, from costuming to historical accuracy being looked at. The internet users have been coming up with their takes and whatnot. But in recent days, the criticism has now expanded to the film's casting, particularly the decision to now cast Lupita. The decision also received online backlash, with critics objecting to a black actor portraying Helen of Troy and her sister, characters originating from ancient Greek literature. And among those critics is also Elon Musk, who has actively voiced his take on the historical saga. He recently blasted Nolan's decision to cast a popular actor in the role of famous historical figure and termed it the hypocrisy of Hollywood. In the recent past, Musk also reacted to a post where it was alleged that Nolan is racist against the Greek people and their cultural heritage. But the controversy is not unique. In recent years, several other films and filmmakers have also been criticized for casting decisions, particularly when characters are gender-swapped or race-swapped, meaning the casting of actors of color for characters originally played by white actors in some cases. For instance, in the upcoming Harry Potter series, the casting of Arabella as the main character, also the character to be played by Snape, was met with backlash. In the 2023 film The Little Mermaid, Bailey's casting as Ariel sparked a similar discourse, remember, since the character was traditionally depicted as white with red hair. And when Zendaya stepped in to play MJ in the 2017 film Spider-Man Homecoming, the decision was initially met with criticism. Prior to the movie's release, critics claimed that she was playing a race-swapped version of Mary Jane Watson, which was a deviation from the character's traditional depiction as a white, red-haired woman in the comics. However, it was later revealed that she was playing a new character named Michelle Jones. In another instance, Rachel Zegler's casting as Snow White in his live-action remake also turned controversial. A combination of racist backlash and audience disagreement with the movie's modernized feminist approach landed the film in controversy. While the gender swap and race swap casting is not new, the debate continues. Of course, there have been a number of statements and critics also arguing that it changes the core identity of characters. Supporters see it as representation and believe that race has nothing to do with characters. Even at 83, Amitabh Bachchan remains one of the busiest figures in global cinema. Yet, his relentless work ethic also coming at a psychological cost. The veteran actor recently shared a candid look into his nocturnal habits, admitting that his professional commitments frequently override the basic biological necessity of sleep. While medical consensus dictates a minimum of 7 hours, for example, for the body to repair and regulate stress, Bachchan's early morning blog post revealing a lifestyle that often defies these health guidelines and advice in a way. The health implications of chronic sleep deprivation are significant, or inadequate sleep in some cases, as the body relies on these hours of rest for metabolic balance and immune support, among other factors, to combat what happened during the day. Bachchan has turned to a specific form of therapy, which is classical music. By immersing himself in the soulful sounds of the sitar and slide guitar, he seeks to bridge the gap between a high-pressure career and the restorative rest that his body requires. He wrote, and I'm quoting, "No sleep process takes over at this hour of the morning from the night before, because work is more important than sleep. Medical says it's not right, must get 7 hours minimum. The body grows, develops and repairs in the sleep hours. So what does one do?" quote unquote. And while talking about the therapeutic power of classical strings, he said, and I'm quoting, "There is no better cure for the soul than this," quote unquote. Bachchan, who actively talks about his personal and professional life on his blog, once revealed that the thought of having a lazy day does not sit well with him. In one of his previous posts, he said that it seems disturbing to not be working each day, describing it as an added anxiety. The cinema veteran also said that a lack of schedule disrupts his internal balance. A London pub is turning boldness into the ultimate badge of honor with a playful new celebration. Our next report telling you more about this. We're leaving you with this. Thanks for watching.
Come on! Free beer for both guys. Free beer for both guys.
I've got a pint because I've stumbled into a random event called Ballfest in Soho, and yeah, I'm getting shaved.
was watching a video the other day of some guy having one of the toupees put on, and afterwards he was like, "Oh, it's taken years off me." I'm like, I don't think it's true at all. Every time I get shaved, I'm like, I look younger because it looks like a right mess. Try it.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.